So I am recently congratulated on my ability to contrive realistic scenarios for illustrating philosophical issues. It's one of the things I pride myself on, because thinking about things in the abstract strikes me as being an error, that the benefit of the subjunctive voice in grammar is the ability to postulate worlds not at evidence, and therefore to play out games, to play out scenarios in the imagination, and to ideally to discover thereby what will happen without having to invest too much tuition in the school of hard knocks. So let's take a really complicated scenario, really difficult moral dilemma, one that you're going to have to apply the full depths of your ability to ratiocinate, to think in extremely short span of time, in real time. You're going to have to make a decision very quickly. So let's do some philosophy. All right, here's the scenario. You are getting on the freeway. You are driving, and you are in the access lane. You are in the merging lane. You are about to merge onto the freeway, and so you are driving in that strange long curve of the on-ramp and gradually accelerating, and you're getting yourself up to freeway speed, which is somewhere between 10 and 25 miles an hour over the posted limit. So you're really having to eight-ball it to get going. The traffic isn't too heavy, it's not too light, it's not too heavy, it's just right. But you look over your shoulder to your left and you can see that there's another car in the right lane, and the speed at which that car is moving and the speed at which your car will be moving by the time you get there will put you in approximately the same place at the same time. You stop to consider the, if you think about all of the vicious things that academics say about your mind and how inept and incompetent it is, I want you to consider the math and the physics of this problem, all of which you are working out on the fly. And I won't say that your calculations are terribly accurate, but they're going to be close enough for a crash if something doesn't change. And so you're now in a situation where you have to make a decision. The other driver also has to make a decision, but you don't know that he's aware of you. You don't know what choice he'll make if he is aware of you. And all you really know is that if you don't do something differently and essentially immediately, you're going to get into an accident. This is philosophy. This is a philosophy problem. It's the stupidest problem in the world, right? You do this 7 times a day. 7 times a day, 7 days a week, 50 times a week, 50 weeks a year, 2,500 times you face a year. 2,500 times a year you face this philosophical dilemma. And so my question for you is, what's your impulse, gas or brakes? What's your first impulse, gas or brakes? You've got to make a decision. You've got to make a choice. Every circumstance is different. I understand that. You may be judging the vehicle that you're going to run into. You may be judging the driver. You may be judging your past experience on this particular freeway. There may be a whole lot of things that enter into your calculation, but 2,500 times a year, the details are going to wash out. You're going to have a fairly standard distribution with a few outliers, the same as every other distribution. So 2,500 times a year, what's your impulse, gas or brakes? Do you hit the gas, go a little bit faster and get into the lane first, or do you hit the brakes and yield and let that other car go first? If there's more traffic, obviously you're going to do something different. If there's no traffic, believe me, if there's no traffic, I'm driving 100 before I get into the freeway. But there's light traffic, you're going to hit that car. If you don't do something different, what are you going to do, gas or brakes? There isn't any right answer. Different people will do things differently. I'm a driver in every possible way in my life, and you better believe I will always always hit the gas. It's very rare that I will hit the brakes in that circumstance. And even if I have to hit the brakes twice as hard because I made a mistake, I really bet wrong, and it's a big cowboy in a Ford F-350 with the dually wheels in back and the extra saddlebag tanks, and he's all jacked up, and he's advertising in every possible way that when he gets into that situation, he's always going to hit the gas. So I bet wrong, and I got myself a cowboy. He was driving his wife's old Ford Taurus instead, and I didn't know. I just assumed I could take advantage of a Taurus. Who doesn't make that assumption? So I might have to hit the brakes twice as hard, but in almost every circumstance, 2,457 times out of 2,500, I'm going to hit the gas. I'm going to go faster. What you do is your choice. It's interesting to me. This is one of those questions I like to ask people. I like to present this scenario in real life a lot because I like to know what it is that people think. The answer to that question will tell you a whole lot about how you're going to make decisions in other parts of your life. And so that's why I like to ask if you have this stressful situation where you have to make a decision. Which decision are you going to make? This relates to an idea that I call losing slowly. Most of the strategies that you hear from people about winning, how to win at this, how to win at that, how to be a better businessman, how to run your business better, how to make more money in less time, how to do all of the how-to business is really not about winning. It's about losing slowly. It's about structuring the game in such a way that you don't lose as quickly as you would without that extra special list of cargo cult tactics. But it's one of the things that I watch for all the time in terms of motivation for people, for organizations, for businesses. Is the objective to win, or is the objective simply to lose slowly? And I don't know that the question of gas or brakes tells me enough, but it's one of those that I watch for because hitting the gas is winning. It is. It's your goal is to get where you're going, and if there's a conflict between you and another car, your impulse is to pass. Your impulse is to get ahead. That even if you only get ahead 2 or 3 car lengths, and then there's another car in front of you, then you're figuring out your strategy to get ahead of that one and to advance the ball down the field, to move the car closer to where you want to be. You're moving incrementally to where you want to be, but are you incurring delays, or are you putting the delays behind you? One of the things that I look for in businesses is the motivation of the business to deliver value, or is it to try to grind out profits on price? When you go through the drive-up and the kid doesn't give you a napkin, it may just be that he's an idiot kid, but it may also be the policy of management to only give napkins upon request. You'll see it. You'll know when you're at that kind of a place because there will be a little hand-printed sign in the window that says condiments by request or condiments 5 cents each. If you want mustard or ketchup with your hamburger, you're going to cough up an extra dime. This is somebody who's grinding it out on price, who has no concept of value, how to deliver value to a customer, how to make customers happy and satisfied, how to make them want to come back. His attitude is he's only going to see you once. He's going to blow the deal on the very first deal. He's only going to have one shot at your money, and therefore he's going to get as much of it as he can, because you'll never be back. Another one that I like to look for when I'm dealing with people is when I roll out something new, or when somebody else rolls out something new, when there's a new thing or a new idea out for consideration, do people try to fix it, or do they try to break it? Do they try to use it, to manipulate it, to try to figure out what it can do, how it can do it, how it can be made better, or are they just simply trying to tear it down from the very first instance that they see it? Are they looking for reasons to reject it? And again, this is none of these things is terribly dispositive in terms of understanding people, but it's worthwhile to think about all of them in terms of how you're conducting your own affairs, because, well, we'll get to it. The real question is, are you living your life, or are you just working as hard as you can to avoid death? I think about that dump, that image of the dump, that all of humanity standing in a vast circle around a huge dump, a huge garbage dump, nothing but shit and garbage everywhere. And all of humanity is standing there staring into the abyss. Not jumping in, not becoming part of the carnage, but unable to tear their eyes away, unable to think about anything else, unable to approach life any other way than as a steady, continuous battle to avoid being flushed into that vast toilet, that all we really have of our lives is avoiding death. Every choice that we make out of a sort of a prudential fear. On the one hand, that we can argue that what we're doing will eliminate risk, will grind out a few pennies of extra profit. All the napkins we didn't hand out today, we can put in our retirement savings account. And someday we can steal extra napkins from restaurants and sell them for extra money. But everybody is staring into that abyss, staring into that dump, staring at all that shit and garbage, and, you know, living in dread, in the secure knowledge, in the certain knowledge that someday you will be nothing but waste matter. You will be shit and garbage and nothing else. If you have an afterlife, it will not be anywhere you can perceive it now, and you don't believe that you have an afterlife anyway, or else you wouldn't spend all your time staring into the abyss. You wouldn't spend all your time losing slowly. If you thought that there really was a paradise to be had in the life after this one, number one, you would do everything you could to hasten the day that you get to undertake that life, and number two, you would spend all your time celebrating it rather than dreading the loss of your life. And the older you get, the weaker you get, the less confident you get to exercise your life, the more you'll cling to it. And this is the most horrifying thing of all, is to find that the people who are most interested in staying alive are the ones who have wasted their capacity for living, that they wasted 80 years and then discovered that they wanted to live. But you waste that time staring into that abyss, and even if you insist that you're oh no, I've turned around, I'm looking the other, no, you spend your whole time staring over your shoulder and looking into your rearview mirror. You can't put that abyss out of your mind. You can't put that specter of your eventual death, the loss of everything that you love, you can't put that out of your mind, and because of that you can't actually get what you want out of life. And even when you try to, you only commit half-assed. You won't do it to the degree necessary to get the job done. I think it's just so funny to watch people who, you know, get married, start families, or even just take on a new job, and in each one of those circumstances, people will commit just enough to make it look like they've committed without ever really committing at all. And they will do just enough to make it look like they're doing what they promised to do without ever really doing what they promised to do. They'll give everything of themselves that doesn't matter, and they'll withhold everything that does. They go in with the expectation that whatever it is that they're doing, the marriage, the family, the job, whatever it is that they're doing is going to fail. And they are undertaking a strategy of losing slowly in order to fail faultlessly, in order to fail without being culpable, without being blamable for the failure. When the relationship was failed from the very beginning, when it began as if it Most of the things that people are willing to fully commit themselves to are trivial. Sports, hobbies, avocations, maybe just waste of time and deliberate destruction of consciousness through alcohol or whatever. Where you see people who are fully involved, really so much committed to, they're not doing anything else, they're so committed. When you see people like that, they're doing something that doesn't really matter in their lives, that is truly not important, that they will tell you that, oh my God, I want to name a sports team, but I don't know any. The Arizona Diamondbacks are the most important thing in my life, and I have, D-backs jerseys for every day of the week, and I have D-back stickers on my car, and I go to all the games, and if I can't go to the games, I watch them on TV, and I watch all the away games on TV, and I follow the box scores and follow the standings. I love the Arizona. What for? What for? It's a game. If you are fascinated by it, it's because you are diverting your fascination from the things that really matter in your life. The people for whom the Diamondbacks is a significant value, not anywhere near the top value in anyone's life, but a significant value, those are the people who own the team and play on it. The investors, the players, the employees, they have a reason to care about the Diamondbacks at the third or fourth position on their hierarchy of values. If you say that the Diamondbacks are anywhere near the top of your hierarchy of values or any other triviality, do not get locked on the particular. If you say that anything comes ahead of yourself, your spouse, your children, your extended family, I want to know what's wrong with you. I want to know what it is you're trying to escape, because you are trying to escape from one of those commitments, maybe from all of them, your marriage, your family, your job. There's some very important relationship in your life that you're trying to escape from if you devote all of your energy, all of your commitment to trivialities. But the reason that you do that is in order to provide cover for your failing faults. And again, I sound like I'm being really judgy and critical, and I'm not. I am guilty of all of this. My excuse was work. I could erect a marriage with work. I could work incessantly. I could work 4 days in a row. I could work 4 or 5 days without sleep. But give me a couple hours of nap every night, and I could work 14 days in a row and never notice. I could not come home until my socks could walk home by themselves. And I could tell myself that this was utterly, vitally important, that it was absolutely necessary to keep the business alive, that if I didn't do this, the whole world would come crashing around me. But in fact, what I was doing was I was making it possible for my whole world to come crashing around me while I was away at work. This idea of losing slowly is something that I've been thinking about for a lot of years, but it really came together for me last summer. I was in Las Vegas for a month. I wrote a book in Las Vegas called Losing Slowly. And there were a bunch of oxymorons that occurred to me at the time. Deliberate thoughtlessness still makes me crazy. Still makes me crazy. And I think I can explain a whole lot of what goes wrong in the world just by couching it in the terms of deliberate thoughtlessness. That the cheeseball who thinks he's going to save his business by charging you a nickel a packet for mustard is engaged in deliberate thoughtlessness. He has a problem, and he worked real hard to come up with a solution, and the solution he came up with is exactly the opposite one of the one he should have picked. Exactly the wrong choice. Another one that I liked a lot was waste creation. I think you can understand Marxism as a philosophical doctrine, as a purposive creation of waste. And it's a wonderful oxymoron to think about waste creation. But if you understand that the dump, the abyss, the great pit of shit and garbage, the great pit of waste is such a matter of fascination to human beings, and always has been, going back to our simian forebears. From the time that human beings could consider the subjunctive, they've been living in dread. And so Marx was pretty astute in coming up with the the philosophy of waste creation. The one that I like the best that I came up with is adult baby, and I don't know that I came up with this. It's so obvious that probably somebody else coined it, but I just love it. Because I think it describes all of this, everything that I'm talking about, and then some, every sort of putatively rational conclusion that ends up creating nothing but the opposite of its alleged objective. This is what adult babies do. This is what babies do. Babies ruin things. Babies wreck things. They don't intend to. It's just they're incompetent. And adult babies are much, much better at that kind of destruction because bigger, more skilled. But if their values are inverted, then their destruction is going to be amazing compared to what a baby could do. But every time you talk yourself out of committing yourself fully to your values, every time you look for the loss instead of the win, you're losing slowly. You may not lose all at once, all the way. You know how to do that. You know how to lose all at once, all the way. You know when you're doing a half-assed job how to do the full-ass job instead, and you can do the full-ass job and probably get fired right away, whether you're getting fired from your job or fired from your family. You know how to do the full-ass job, and you're not doing that. But you're not doing the job either. You're not doing the whole job. You're not doing what you promised to do. You're not doing what you're committed to do. You're not doing what you really want and need to do in order to make this relationship succeed. Instead, you're just kind of coasting and doing the minimum necessary. Waiting for it all to go to hell. And when that happens, you'll be prepared with a rationale, with a pretext, with a reason why it happened, why it was failed. Why it never could work, couldn't possibly ever have it worked. I hung in there as long as I did the best I could. I really gave it everything I had. But it just didn't work out now, did it? I have no respect for that. I have no respect for that. I'm sorry. I don't want to scold you. I don't want to yell at you or put you on your defensive. I don't want you to decide that because I hold you accountable for the errors that every one of us makes, that I'm trying to chase you away. I'm really not. I want to embrace you. I want to bring you into my fold. I want you to understand why choosing to win is the only human choice, why choosing to win is the only choice that can result in any sort of attainment of your values, why losing slowly is not a strategy. Losing slowly is just deferring death. You're not avoiding death, you're deferring it. And in deferring it, you're not gaining some positive value instead. You're just wasting your time. You're just wasting away the days of your life, day upon day, month upon month, year upon year, until you fall into the abyss dead anyway. But if you choose to win, if you always choose to win, then it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter when you die. That's the funny thing about it, is that we spend our whole lives dreading a death that is unavoidable in the end, is going to happen, and yet we waste all this time dreading death and doing everything that we can think of to avoid falling into that abyss, except walking away from it and doing something else instead, doing something positive instead of simply dreading the negative. Doing nothing is a vice. Taking positively self-destructive actions is vicious, is a vice, yes, but simply doing nothing is a vice. Not winning is losing. It doesn't matter if your score was 0, you still lost. Not winning is losing. But not losing is winning. And so, if you structure your choices in such a way that you're always happy with the outcome, then you always win. I'm self-employed. I don't have a job. I wake up every morning without a job. Every morning unemployed. And I have to figure out how to get the money that we need to survive. Sometimes I'm good at it, sometimes I'm not so good at it, but I'm always negotiating for a job. I have negotiated badly enough that I know how to negotiate well now. Which means negotiating in such a way that if I get the job, I'm happy. Because I'm going to get paid for doing my work my way. But if I don't get the job, I'm also happy. Because I'm not doing the wrong thing. I'm not doing work that I wouldn't otherwise do. I'm not doing work that violates my conscience or my philosophical principles. I'm not doing the wrong thing. So if I get the job, I win, and if I don't get the job, I win. Because I don't want to do work I don't want to do, and I don't make money when I do the wrong thing. That's the only reason that I'm involved in this negotiation at all, is to get paid. That's why everybody negotiates for a job. The only reason I'm involved in the negotiation is to get paid. And if I know from past experience that making the wrong deal will not only make me miserable, will waste a lot of my time and a lot of my money, but will also result in my not getting paid in the end, then obviously I'm ahead of the game by walking away from the wrong deal. My goal, I'm nowhere near it yet, but my goal is to turn down 4 out of 5. Ultimately, maybe 9 out of 10. But every choice that you face, every decision that you have to make, you can structure your world that way so that whichever outcome eventuates, you're happy. Because you got what you wanted. You got your life your way. You either did what you wanted to do in the way that you wanted to do it, or you did something else instead. You didn't do what you didn't want to do. You chose not to fail. You didn't take the failed action. Instead, you either took the win from that negotiation, or you just moved on to the next thing on your agenda and did that instead. But you always choose to win, and if you do that, if you structure your life such that you're always choosing to win, number one, you're guaranteed to be walking away from the dump, because there is no win in the dump. There's nothing but loss in the dump, and staring at the dump is nothing but loss. If you turn around and just look over your shoulder in the rearview mirror, you're still doing nothing. But if you pursue something else instead, then you're moving toward the win. And if you're always moving toward the win, you're never moving toward the loss. And guess what? Death will come and take you someday anyway. But if you're fully committed to what you're doing, if you're not doing anything else, what difference does it make? We may be at a point where human beings really can live forever, can live much, much, much longer lives. If you're not living my way now, what would be the point of it? If you're not living for the win now, the way I described it in Las Vegas was that gamblers will step up to the table and they will do everything they can to make their bankroll last as long as possible, which sounds like some kind of victory-seeking strategy, but it's not. It is losing slowly. Their objective in stepping up to that table, they know they're going to lose. There's nobody who actually understands what's going on in a casino who expects to win despite all the bullshit stories they will tell you. Everybody loses except the house. Everybody knows that everybody knows he's going to lose when he steps up to gamble. And his objective is to lose as slowly as possible, to make his pain last as long as possible. How much more into the dump could you be staring than to try to figure out how to make your pain last 2 hours instead of just 1 hour? And if you think about that strategy and look for it in other places in your life, you'll find it again and again and again. go into a situation where you know you're going to lose, you know you cannot possibly win. There's no victory condition. There is no situation where you can win. And yet, you not only hang in there, you figure out ways to make the pain last longer. One of the reasons that I do this, somebody asked a question a couple of weeks ago, and I just thought it was so stupid, I just let it go. I will answer it now. If that person is watching, there will be an answer. Why do I do this? Because I want it done. That's the only reason that anybody ever does anything. But I want for you to understand that there is a different way to think. And all of humanity has gotten it wrong until now. Humanity always chooses to lose slowly. The choice is lose quickly or lose slowly. And people think they're being prudent, they think they're being wise, they think they're being careful, they think they're being conscientious by choosing to lose slowly. No one gets out of here alive. What did you get in exchange for your time? My name is Greg Swann. This is the Church of Splendor. This is the church where you hear things that no one else says, where you are confronted with ideas that you really don't want to think about. Yet I find a way to impress these ideas into your brain in such a way that you'll never escape them. Bless you. Thank you so much for giving me your time and your attention. I'll talk to you next week.